We hear a lot about countries setting these big climate goals, but how many have a real working machine to actually achieve them? Well, today, we're going to take a deep dive into a fascinating case, Sweden, and how it's building a comprehensive blueprint to decarbonize its entire economy. And this brings us right to this central question, really the high-stakes gamble at the heart of this whole thing. Is it possible for a country not just to survive a green transition, but to actually get richer and more competitive because of it? Sweden is betting its entire future that the answer is a huge yes. So, what's the goal? Well, Sweden has this incredibly bold national ambition to become the world's first fossil-free welfare nation. Now, this isn't just some policy target, they're framing it as the next chapter of their national identity, really weaving sustainability into the very fabric of the country. And that sets the stage for everything else. All right, first up in the blueprint, you've got to set the North Star. To build something this massive, you need a single, fixed point, a clear, unwavering goal for the entire country to rally behind. Let's see how they did it. The core concept here is something called directionality. Think of it like this. The government plants a flag on a distant hill and says, "That is where we are all going, period." It's all about creating a predictable, long-term environment so that these huge industries know exactly where to aim their investments for the next, 20 or 30 years. And look, this isn't just a political promise they can back out of. After the Paris Agreement, Sweden passed something called the Climate Policy Framework. This thing legally binds the nation and all future governments to hit net zero emissions by 2045 and then actually go negative after that. It's basically a marching order for the entire economy, from the smallest startup to the biggest industrial giants. Okay, so we've got the destination. Next up, how do you get everyone moving? Part 2 of the blueprint is the engine room, a really powerful carrot-and-the-stick approach that uses two very different kinds of policy tools. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. For decades, the debate has always been, should we use market forces or should we use government intervention? Sweden's answer is, that's a false choice. The real magic, the critical insight, happens when you use both of them together, in synergy. So first, let's talk about the stick, carbon pricing. This is the broad, market-wide pressure that just makes polluting expensive. And Sweden has been a pioneer in this for a long, long time. And they do not mess around. At $137 per ton of CO2, Sweden has the highest carbon tax on the entire planet. This isn't some gentle nudge. It's a powerful economic signal that forces every single part of the economy to constantly hunt for cleaner, more efficient ways to operate. So, has it worked? Well, this chart just says it all, doesn't it? Since they brought in the tax way back in 1991, Sweden's economy has grown by a massive 84%, while its carbon emissions have dropped by nearly 30%. This right here, this is the holy grail of climate policy, decoupling economic growth from pollution. So, if the carbon tax is the big stick that punishes pollution everywhere, you also need a carrot. And that's where industrial policy comes in. It doesn't just make the old, dirty way expensive. It actively makes the new, clean way possible by targeting these breakthrough technologies and absorbing the huge risks that private investors just won't touch on their own. So what does this carrot actually look like in practice? Well, it's a whole toolkit. First, you've got programs like Industry Leave It that directly fund R&D and these massive investments. Second, the state shares the risk with things like green credit guarantees, covering up to 80% of a loan for a risky project. And third, they use their own state-owned companies to push for long-term climate goals, even if it means smaller profits in the short term. The whole point of all this, the crucial takeaway, is that it creates what they call a de-risking state. The government isn't trying to pick winners here. It's absorbing the massive, scary risks of building brand new industries from scratch. And that lets private companies innovate faster and be way more bold. And this isn't just theory. You can see it in action. Just look at the green steel industry. The Hybrid project got billions in subsidies. A competing startup, H2 Green Steel, got a massive 1.2 billion euro loan guarantee. And the state-owned mining company, LKAB, was basically told it could be less profitable so it could free up cash for its own green transition. That is the de-risking state at work. Goals and tools are great, but you've got to get everyone rowing in the same direction. And that brings us to part 3 of the blueprint, the power of partnership, which is all about building a system for collaboration. The key to making this all work is a national initiative called Fossil-Free Sweden. And listen, this isn't just a PR campaign. It's a real institutional platform that's designed to create a permanent, structured partnership between the government and the entire private sector. And the scale of this is pretty incredible. We're talking over 500 companies from 22 different industries have all joined in. They work together to create these sector-by-sector roadmaps for going fossil-free. And crucially, they use this platform to tell the government exactly what policies they need to get there. It just aligns the entire economy. Of course, no plan is ever perfect, right? Building a whole new economy is messy, and it definitely comes with real-world challenges. But let's take a look at those obstacles and then see what the ultimate economic payoff looks like. So let's have a little reality check, because it is not all smooth sailing. First, deep tech is incredibly risky. The battery startup Northvolt hit major financial trouble, which is a stark reminder of the high stakes. Second, policies can be vulnerable. When they cut fuel taxes recently, transport emissions immediately shot up, showing just how fragile these gains can be. And finally, Sweden isn't operating in a vacuum. It's racing against the massive green industry support being rolled out by the US and China. But, and this is the big but, despite all those challenges, here's the payoff. Sweden has successfully managed to transform sustainability from being a cost or a burden into its core economic strength. It's now their competitive advantage on the world stage. And the proof, as they say, is in the money. Just look at where venture capitalists are placing their bets. An incredible 74% of all VC funding in Sweden goes to impact companies, startups that are focused on sustainability. That is double the European average, and it just shows this massive investor confidence in the whole model. So, pulling this all together, what can we learn from this whole thing? Well, Sweden's model really offers a set of core principles that could, potentially, serve as a blueprint for other nations too. So, what is the Swedish blueprint in a nutshell? When you boil it all down, it really stands on 3 pillars. First, a legally binding long-term goal that creates certainty. Second, the synergy of the stick and the carrot. Market forces and government help working together. And third, a formal system for constant collaboration between the government and industry. In the end, what Sweden has built is a complex, powerful machine designed for one purpose: deep decarbonization. All the components are there, and they're starting to work. And that leaves us with the final critical question. They've built the machine, but can this blueprint be replicated by the rest of the world?